Welcome to Thursday Thoughts. It's a series of videos that I've been doing on a Thursday about something that I've been thinking about in the lead up to a Thursday video. Haven't done a Thursday Thoughts video in about 2 or 3 weeks. Basically, my hay fever has just been really bad. I didn't really feel like, doing the Thursday Thoughts video when I was suffering with hay fever, but I'm better now and I'm back with another video. And today I want to talk to you about introspection. I have had a problem with introspection, and that might sound like a really crazy thing to say because introspection is something that is usually seen as something that is a positive process for somebody to do. For those of you who don't know what introspection is, basically it is the ability to observe or examine one's mental and emotional processes. I have started on this type of journey of introspection from many years ago, actually. I think going through different bouts of therapy from the age of 13 to the age of like 41, in and out of therapy over those years has helped this kind of process where I've been able to develop, introspection, to look at myself and examine my own kind of emotional and mental processes. And, for a long time, it has been very, very beneficial, especially when I was in and out of therapy. So, as I said, from 13 in and out of like different types of therapy, but never committing to it. But then 22 years old to the age of 41 in and out of therapy, and then doing the work needed to heal from things like childhood sexual abuse, low self-esteem and confidence issues. I, did a lot of work with therapists during those different periods of time to, kind of look at the root causes of things, to undertake exercises to kind of reflect on self, like journaling and stuff. And it was very, very successful. As I've shared in other videos, I've been able to heal from so much that I've gone through, especially from childhood sexual abuse, which took over 20 years to heal from. I've come a long way, and I have to give all glory and credit to Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't have been brave or courageous enough, actually, to have really faced some of the horrors that I went through in my childhood without the love of God, without God guiding and helping me and putting the right people in place to support me on that journey. I came from a background where, because of my abuse, I had a shame-based kind of nature where I always thought that there was something wrong with me. I always felt guilty and ashamed of myself. I never thought that I was good enough. And these were constant thoughts and constant things I used to think about myself for a number of years. So I felt really proud to overcome so many of those kind of mindset issues that I had in this area. But what had happened is that I was able to heal from so many things. Out of therapy now for the past 7 years in regards to anything to do with my past, childhood abuse. But, I wanted to continue the work of developing myself and, improving myself. And there is nothing wrong with that. I think that it's a very beneficial thing to be able to do that. So obviously I started on this personal development journey of, continuing the work of what I was doing in therapy, but doing it in my own way, working on my habits, working on different areas of my life that I felt that could be improved. But the problem came when I would have kind of reflective moments, that introspective kind of time, where I then would notice particularly in some of my diaries and in kind of the moments where I had of that kind of reflection time, that there were certain things that just kept coming up with me, like in the area of habits that I struggled with. I just kept seeing this repeated pattern. And what had happened is because I noticed this repeated pattern and I wasn't happy that I was still falling into the same old kind of habit and routines to do with it, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to, iron that thing out within me, because I recognized that it's something that could affect other areas of my life. But the problem is, you see, the more I kind of focused on the kind of parts of myself, like in introspection, those parts of myself that I felt were negative or needed fixing, the more it kind of discouraged me. And far from empowering me, it made me feel that, there was something wrong with me that always needed fixing. So I became very discouraged. I found that introspection made me quite self-absorbed. I was so absorbed with these things within myself that I felt were kind of hindering me, that I couldn't really appreciate all the positive and progressive things that I had done. I've come on leaps and bounds. If you knew me like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you would be, I think, kind of shocked at the person I am now, because I have come a long way. And rather than celebrate and focus on those positive parts that I have, all the work I've done in those parts and the woman I've become, I was more focusing on, when I was having those times of introspection, all the negative things, all the things that I believed needed fixing. And what happened is, it made me feel discouraged and demotivated, and it made me feel like, back to that kind of way of how I felt in those earlier years when I was going through therapy, that I wasn't good enough, that, there was something wrong with me and stuff. And it just kind of set me on a negative path. Introspection is supposed to help you to, look at your motivations, your personal growth, and, help you to kind of go forward. But with somebody like me who's got this kind of thing where I do have a habit, and I know I have this habit of focusing on things that sometimes I have this habit of focusing on things that I believe are negatives within myself, it kind of defeated the purpose. It made me really sensitive, hypersensitive to myself and to some of the issues that I believed that I was, facing within myself. And I had to just take a step back, because I know the background that I've come from, coming from a background of childhood sexual abuse, coming from a background where I have condemned myself a lot for things that had nothing to do with me, for actions taken against me. I knew that I was susceptible to this kind of negative critiquing of myself. So, I had to just learn to just let go and give it to God, because I realized that there's things within me that are not going to be fixed overnight. Like with anybody in life, you may have probably yourself identified things within you that you're not happy about, and you've tried to fix it. And the more you try and fix it, you're frustrated. But one of the things I've learned is that even though you're frustrated and you may feel discouraged, there's no point really continuing to focus on it. Just like other things in your life that you may have been kind of hyper focused on before about yourself, that you realized in your times of introspection that you didn't like, in time they kind of iron themselves out. It's the same way it's going to be about some other things within you that you recognize. And a lot of the time, what I've realized now is that, especially because of my faith, I believe that God will help me to work my way through those things in his time and not in my time. God just wants me to focus on him and to give my worries and cares to him. Anything I'm worried about and concerned about within myself, and he will give me the strength or the help to get through it. But, introspection can be a great thing, but you have to really kind of monitor it, I would say. I wouldn't say that it's not something that anybody should do. And I know for a fact a lot of people don't even have any kind of introspective things that they do, activities that they do to kind of, reflect on their self and reflect on their motivations and emotions and stuff like that. Not a lot of people do it, but if you're somebody that does do this often, whether it's through journaling or just sitting and, kind of reflecting on your life and stuff like that, just have the balance right. Even if you do find during your times of introspection that there are things you don't like, don't become hyper focused on it like I was, and because it can make you self-absorbed. That's what I found, this kind of, what is wrong with me, I need to fix this type of thing. I felt that I was going through that for a long time. It can make you feel like super absorbed in yourself, and it's never a really a positive thing, something that is supposed to be positive to be then to be found to be a negative thing in your life. I just wanted to share this with you because, a lot of us have well-meaning intentions. A lot of us who are, wanting to be the best versions of ourselves, who want to, become, want to grow, want to develop ourselves into the best person that we can be. Introspection is part of that, and sometimes it can be taken a little bit too far. But it's just about finding the balance. And for me, one of the things that I've started to do as well is, you know, one thing that I may have found about myself that needs a bit of work and that I can actively do something within that, I will then, you know, do actionable steps. So taking one thing and working on that one thing a day at a time. Because what I've realized is a lot of the things that I have issues with didn't just happen overnight. You know, it happened over a long period of time. And I remember somebody saying to me, when I was on my journey of healing from my abuse and going through the things in the aftermath, somebody once said to me that it may take as long as what had happened to me to be able to reverse some of the things that, you know, I had gone through, or even longer. And I think that is just a message about life in general, really. You know, there's no point condemning yourself or beating yourself over the head about habits or things mentally that you may be struggling with, because it doesn't lead to anywhere good. So just get introspection in balance, you know, take an actionable step for something that you can do, and try not to, you know, be hyper focused or super absorbed when it comes to it. So that's all I wanted to share in this video. Let me know your thoughts below about introspection, and I will see you in another video.